welcome to another Manufacturers Cup commentary. This time Alsace Group 4. Going through the final few corners, take a wide entry to open it up and carry more speed into the start of the lap. I used the light for the pit exit as my brake marker here, and I do run a bit deep into the corner, but I get a fairly decent exit and heading up the hill now. I'm just outside of slipstream range of the car in front, so I don't have that to help me through the power sections of the track. I use the shadow on the left hand side there as my brake marker. Try to get on that curb, but if you go over it, it will step out the rear, so don't try to avoid doing that. Here again, try to stay tight and just as flat as possible. I do lift a little bit, so I got a bit too much of a turn in, I turned in too early. Again, using the shadow, tried to carry about 75, 76 miles an hour, which I don't quite do, but it's still a decent corner, so I didn't lose a whole lot there. Try to apex early here and open up the corner as much as possible to carry the speed out of it. I struggled with this banked corner. I don't know if it's just the McLaren had problems here or if it was just something I was doing, but I couldn't quite carry as much speed as other people here. Coming into this corner, I used the dip in the track as my braking point, and then tried to stay tight on this part of the corner to get on the power as early as possible. This car in front was leaving. I didn't think he was going to leave, so I hesitated on my turn in and I actually lost myself a couple of tenths probably there. And now going to the final few corners, tried to stay tight on this first part, which I don't do as well as I could have, so I've compromised my exit into the last corner there. So overall it was a decent lap, but it could have been better. Okay, coming into the race, right, this is going to be a big fuel saver here, which is the McLaren's biggest weakness. So as you can see at the start, I moved the fuel mix to 6 just to save as much as I can through the starting part of this. So every little bit helps here. It's just I'm going to be having a lot of trouble with fuel. So I need to keep it in mix 1 as much as possible because I need the power, otherwise I'm going to be nowhere, but I also need to save the fuel, so I'm going to be wanting the slipstream where possible, and you'll see me short shifting like crazy, especially up this first part of the race. Well, I don't even let it get into the rev bar, I'm just shifting way early just to save any little bit of fuel I can, because I know I'm going to be pitting after lap 1, so I decided I'm going to run 1 medium, then 2 stints of 6 on the soft tyre. So for this first lap I'm okay just to settle in behind the Corvette just in front, I'm not really going to need to make a move. Just get through the first lap and not lose anything is my goal here. So as you can see, I'm very tentative into some of the corners. I just So I've not done a lot of medium running, it's been mostly on the soft to try to get them to last. As you can see, the group in front is starting to pull away, so you can tell the Corvette just in front of me is on the medium tyres as well. So I kind of expected him to pit the end of lap 1, but as you will see in a minute, he doesn't do that. Over there, like I mentioned with the other corner, I got onto the grass slightly, it just steps the rear out, and it's an easy way to lose a load of time there. You need to stay on the curb, but if you go over it, then it's kind of like a bit of a death trap. Here, nice and smooth into the corner. And good exit out of the final corner, and now just straight towards the pits. You can obviously I've used a decent amount of fuel already. And that's with saving as much as I could there. So now at pit exit, I'm lucky that I fall into this gap here, and so I'm the first of the people who stopped on lap 1 with this strategy. So I'm kind of hoping I don't lose a place into this corner here, because I don't know, people at the back are more likely to be the ones diving for positions. It's kind of usually what happens with these type of races, so I'm always a bit wary when something like this happens. You just go out in the pits on fresh tyres and you've got somebody right behind you. But this time round everything worked out fine, so all good. So for this whole stint is going to be all about saving tyres and saving fuel. I need to just be as economical as I can with both, because I've been suffering with quite a lot of front tyre wear, even though I've been running a fully rearward brake bias. So later in the stint I do start to suffer, but because I hadn't done a whole lot of medium running, I didn't really get any pace on those tyres, so I was still faster on the soft even when they were worn out. As you see here, this group's starting to fight, so I'm actually getting quite worried at this point. I'm thinking I'm going to lose a load of time, it's going to be race over. You see the battling going on, and I get a really good run out of the corner as they're all squabbling. I take the run around the outside, and I actually rev the engine a lot more than I probably should have been doing, just to try to make sure I get this move done. So taking 3 cars all at once, it actually was able to set up my race to be fairly good. But now they have the slipstream to me and I don't have a slipstream, so best thing for me is that this Toyota 86 behind me is there, because it's not very fast in the straights, meaning I will be able to keep the place to it. It would have to make a lunge into a corner somewhere to be able to get through, and because it won't overtake me on the straights even with a slipstream. So now I've got just enough of a gap, I can kind of settle in and just start focusing on my pace and saving tyres. I've got the group in front, which is my target to try to catch up. So I can see the gap, and I just got to slowly work on bringing it down. My line actually varied quite a lot through that banked corner. It's, like I said, I struggled with it quite a bit, just trying to keep the speed up, but also with the tyre saving, that one was a killer for the front left. This is actually a corner I was fairly good through, onto the little uphill section here. It was the only place I actually revved the engine at any amount at all, just so you can get the power up, because if you short shift up that little hill, then that costs you like 2/10 easily, so you have to rev up that hill to be able to keep any sort of speed. And for the rest of the stint is fairly stable. I catch up a little bit to the cars in front, one of them pits, and a few other people who started on mediums, they pitted a little bit later, so they have less to do on the softs right behind me. So they have fresher tyres behind, and I'm slightly closer to the group in front. But this is the lap I'm going to be pitting on, right at the end of the stint. Because 6 laps is about the most I could get out of the soft tyres. As you can see, the tyre wear was pretty bad. I was able to save the front rights a little bit better than the front lefts. I don't know, it's just, I guess the left-handers are where I struggled with, the right-hander, sorry, is where I struggled the most, so the left tyre was taking more punishment. It's like corners like that, I could have probably been wearing the tyres out more if I'd been taking those wrong. But as you can see, I can't carry any speed at this point. I'm struggling, and I've got the Corvette right on my tail. At this point, he's way too close for my comfort, and I missed my braking point, as well as having the worn tyres, so he's able to get a run up the inside, but he's not fully in front, and then he turns in on me as if I'm not there. It's like, if he was completely in front, I would have understood turning in like that, but he was only half in front at best. But into this corner, he's got the inside, so I just concede the place. I'm about to pit now anyway, so I was kind of annoyed about losing the time in that little squabble, and he puts his brake lights on, his hazard lights, sorry, to say that I was doing something wrong, maybe, even though it was him who turned in on me and didn't leave me any space. But yeah, you know, it's kind of something I need to look out for probably later in the race, because now I'm going to have an undercut with fresher tyres. And again, I'm actually quite lucky to come out in front of a small pack of cars, so I don't actually lose anything with traffic. Into this corner, and I get a bit too far over the curb, touch the grass, and it steps the rear out. And luckily the people behind me are on worn tyres, otherwise I would have been losing a place right here. Because with the fresher tyres, I'm able to open up a gap on the corners, so I'm fairly safe to these people behind. Because it's kind of around this point where the whole fuel part of it is actually where I lose out quite a bit, because my pit stop I had to put in a considerable amount of fuel, 31%, whereas there's quite a lot of people who only needed about 20% fuel, and that's with me saving a lot. And I had a look at some of the other people who I was around. They were revving their engines a lot more than I was and had similar or better fuel usage. So I was losing time on all the straights just to save fuel. So yeah, it's one of those things. The McLaren really isn't the best in fuel races, so it's like with the FF cars usually struggle with tyre wear, but time 6 round Alsace really isn't that high, so they're kind of safe. But when they're so good on fuel that they can rev the engines, they gain on all the straights, so they gain on the straights more than they lose in the corners. Whereas having trouble with fuel is probably worse than having the tyre wear, to be honest. So it just means you can't push, and if you do push, then you're spending like 4 years in the pit lane just to fill up again. So kind of to my surprise, I actually closed in slightly through that early pit stop with the fresh tyres. So I was able to gain back some of the loss from the fuel. But it just means that everyone around me now is going to have fresher tyres. I managed to jump back in front of the Corvette as well, which again I knew he's going to be right on me. I'm not going to be able to pull away with how he was catching me in the previous stint. And still continually short shifting. I'm lucky that I've got a bit of a slipstream here, so kind of helps out with the fuel saving, so I actually can gain a little bit of that extra pace back. So a bit of a lift there, and then on the power actually rev up. I only revved about a quarter, so I probably could have revved a bit more, to be honest. Again, nice and smooth into this corner. Having trouble keeping the first part tight. I've got to skip forward a few laps just to into the final stretch now. So the Porsche ahead's starting to lose their slipstream in front, so now I've got a really good run on him. So I have the slipstream, he doesn't, and I'm able. You can see I'm pushing that little bit extra on the revs just to try to get a move here. I just about pull alongside, but then I brake marginally too early, I'd say. But with the way he was turning in, he was always going to turn into me if I'd made a move there, so might have been a good thing that I didn't go for it, because he probably would have ended up spinning him out and we probably would have both lost the position to the Corvette behind. I run a bit deep through that corner, but I'm able to keep it under control over the curb. Stay tight here. I'm thinking at this point I've got a chance of actually getting past, but like I said, the tyres start to fall off right at the end of the stint. So as you see into this corner, this is, again, I'm struggling, I'm just losing so much time here, it's just falling away. And now again I have the Corvette right on my tail. So he's not quite close enough to make a move this time. I've got the line covered and all sorted, and now just still using the slipstream, so I've got that safety net. So with the extra revs through this corner, I was actually slightly faster than the Corvette in that little section. Again, a bit off went through that first part of the final chicane. Yeah, out of the final corner, the Corvette behind actually clipped the wall, so it cost him a couple of tenths, so it opened up a bit of a gap for me. I thought I might have been safe at that point, but what I didn't know at the time until I actually looked back after, even though the Corvette pitted one lap after me, his tyre wear was less than half of what I had, so he was in much better position, and he still had a little bit extra fuel, more fuel than I had as well, so he could push more and he had better tyres. So I was always going to be under pressure, but at the time I didn't really know that. Because compared to the people around me, my tyres were by far the worst, and that could probably be down to me being on the pads, just having that less control over the steering really kind of compromises the front tyres. Again, I'm really slow, and you can see he's right on the back of me through that corner again. He gets up the inside. again, he's only half in front at best. He's not even, well, not even that, and he runs into the side of me, even though I run wider to leave him space. So it's kind of like the mandatory getting bashed out of the way for this race. It's like, it always seems to happen. People just don't or can't avoid hitting me for some reason. It's like a feature in all my races. It's like, who's going to try to take me out this time? But again, slightly annoyed because of that, but I know there's enough of a gap behind. I'm one place down from where I started. But the start of the race was actually really good. The end, not so much, but it's kind of all been fairly static. It's like there's been a lot of people in the same places since they started. One of the biggest gainers was the Viper at the front of this pack, just here. He went for the one stop instead of the two, and he gained quite a bit because of it, even though his pace on the last lap was as bad as mine, to be honest. As this group, he was the only one with worse tyres than me, and he'd run 2 extra laps on them, and it was only just worse. That's kind of how bad my front tyre wear was. But you see that Porsche with the penalty, he just kind of slowed down and just let everyone through. I don't know why he did that, to be honest. He must have had an accident up front and he just kind of gave up. So you can see how much faster he is than me, but he doesn't even try anything, he just waits behind me. So I mean, with that, I moved back into the place that I started the race, but I don't know, it's just one of those ones. It's not the best race for me, but it's not being able to push because of having to save so much fuel is kind of a bit annoying, to be honest. It's the one thing that holds the McLaren back. Kind of wish there were less races like this. The Red Bull Ring short race in a couple of races time is going to be another disaster race for McLaren, with there being ×6 fuel there as well. So finishing back where I started, I had a fairly good run there. I wasn't too far off the pace compared to the people up front, but it's just having to save so much. It's just so much time lost because of the fuel saving, and I'm having to do a lot more than everyone else, which isn't great.